Let us start with a prayer. Nityanandam Paramasukhatam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Satgurum Tam Namami. Great. So good to be with all of you this afternoon. I see hundreds of faces joining this program, and it feels great to be here to talk about something that's very important for all of us Hindus. And just a quick check, how many people here identify yourself as living, practicing Hindus? Please raise your hand. Great. Another important question, how many of you are Hindu parents? That is, you are parents, you want to raise your children as Hindus. You have a Hindu identity. You want to raise your children as Hindus. How many of you are like that here? Please raise your hands. I see quite a few hands. That is great. So understand that both of these groups of people, your life is threatened. Your way of life is threatened today. And we want to make it real. For many people, the threat to Hinduism is not real in their life. They just think, okay, the threat is happening somewhere else. It will never reach me. Where I am, we're all safe. Many people think like that. Or maybe even if it happens in a broader sense, Hinduism will take care of itself. So many different ideas that people carry. It is only when it starts affecting you in your life. How does it separate you from your family members, your own children? That is when you will start realizing the threat that you are facing. So today, we are going to talk about many of these aspects step by step. So we will first understand the immediate problem that is happening here in California, how that is spreading towards many other places, both in the US and in the world. And then we will also talk about how this is a important part of a larger conspiracy, a larger movement that is threatening Hinduism and Hindu way of life. And every parent, it's not just Hinduism. We will talk a little bit more about if you are a parent, if you have kids, if you have relationships, if you have family, how this is meant to separate you and from your family, from your children. So this is a threat to our way of life and living and our importance of this in our life. And then we'll also talk about what the solution is, right? How is Kailasa working towards making this, solving this problem? We will talk about that also. So that's the overall plan of what we are going to do. So the very first thing we will talk about, and I want to invite all our panelists here. I am Sri Nitya Muktananda. I am the Sri Mahan of the Nityananda order and the Mahanirvana Yakara. And with me are Ma Nitya Muktikananda. She is the representative to the to Kailasa Nation from Southern California. We also have Sri Gauri Bharatananda, who is an Adinavasi, and he is an intense activist for Hinduism in California area. And we also have Sri Suhas Surendran, who is a youth representative from Kailasa, LA, who will talk from a youth perspective on the challenges that we are facing. Okay, let us get started. First of all, I want to say, Ma, can you share that slide? The first thing I want to say is Hinduism believes in the divinity of everyone, right? That's the core belief of Hinduism. Everyone is Paramashiva, irrespective of external differences, gender, color, caste, any other differences. Hinduism believe we are all Paramashiva, right? But the problem is there is a prevailing sense of stereotyping of Hindus, and the way to denigrate Hindus is to make Hindus believe that they are the originators of the caste system. They are the originators of discrimination based on birth. They are the originators of discrimination based on gender. Today, if you see the global narrative around Hinduism being taught in many universities, especially in the West, I have taught many college classes and gone there to introduce Hinduism. Okay, the first thing they ask me is, oh, I read this, that Hinduism is full of caste discrimination, that based on birth, you are divided into caste. And Hinduism treats women less than, as lower than men. All these negative images, these are the first negative images that are fed to others. And what is happening today is a bill called SB403 that is being introduced in California. This is part of a movement that is trying to take that stereotype of Hinduism, the negative impression of Hinduism, and make it into a law, make it into something that will be written in law. Okay, so this is a great slide. SB403, it's an anti-Hindu tool. What does it do? It preys on Hindu stereotypes. It portrays Hindus as oppressors and castists. It misrepresents what is Varnashrama Dharma. And it will increase discrimination, hate, violence against Hindus. And eventually it's going to divide Hindus against other Hindus. This is very much something from a colonial playbook. We will talk more about all these issues. This has happening in many parts of the country. For example, Seattle recently introduced a bill which said that caste discrimination is from birth, right, based on birth, and caste discrimination is practiced by Hindus worldwide, and we have to end caste discrimination. While Hindus believe everybody is equal, there is no doubt about that. But why only blame Hindus according to that? And now this is being brought up in California as part of SB 403. So it's a law that adds caste as a form of discrimination practiced, and it says very specifically, practiced among South Asians, targeting Hindus. It says it came from this lineage of Hindus for thousands of years. Whereas we know that the way caste discrimination is not restricted to Hindus at all. It is everybody that is practiced all over the world. And second, Hinduism is not the source of it. If you look at what Varnashrama Dharma means, Varna means people have different abilities. People have different gunas. Gunas means behaviors. Based on their guna, Paramashiva has given different people different ways, paths to enlightenment. And this is nothing to do with birth. It's a path towards enlightenment. Right? How many of you have heard about these statements about Hindus, these stereotypes about Hindus, right? How many of you have heard about these stereotypes? I see a few hands. Right? If you ever see, talk to other people, in fact, I go to these conferences, even educated, so-called educated professors, they don't know Hinduism is not the source of caste, the caste discrimination. They mix casteism with Varnashrama Dharma. Varna is different, right? Varna means each based on who you are, you can choose your path to enlightenment. But that does not mean it's based on birth. Now, I invite Gauri Bharataya to say a little bit more about SB 403. What is SB 403 in very briefly? And can you say, what does it say and what is it leading to?
Thank you, Muktaya. So SB 403 is a bill that has been introduced in the state legislature of California. If I have to sum it up in 2 lines, what SB 403 is, it basically says discrimination against caste is bad, which is predominantly practiced by people in Africa, South Asia, and Asia. And the way they define the caste is, it is perceived inherited hierarchy. I don't know what exactly that means, but that is a definition in the bill.
And that is a threat, sorry to interrupt you. perceived discrimination, the bill is so broadly worded that when you say perceived, anybody can say what, perception of caste, right? It doesn't matter what background you come from. Sorry to interrupt. Go forward.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and and basically it says it is applicable to everyone in the areas of employment, housing, and probably a few more things that they have listed there. And they have been very clever in saying that this is not targeting religions. And but all the talks around this bill talks only about one thing: caste system practiced from thousands of years. Now there is only one civilization in the world which has been around for the last few thousand years, and it's the way it is going to be applied is very clearly laid out. It is applied on a group of people who have been around for a few thousand years. That is Hindus. That to me is like two-line summary of what the bill is, and this woke up a few Hindus in the California area and all, and we did go and protest, including few of the members here on the panel, and we did voice our concerns, and but not much came out of it. Like the bill is going to go to the next stage.
Before you go there, Gauriparata, I want to make people understand how this will affect them in their daily lives. Ma, can we project that slide, that the next one about veganism and vegetarianism? Today, how many of you are vegetarian or vegan? Please raise your hands. Right? I know for the previous question, many of you raised your hands. Ma, Eva Pillai, Travis, Tirtharupaya. How many of you are vegetarians? Can you raise your hand? See, all of you are vegetarian, you're raising your hands, right? The problem is they are saying that vegetarianism has to do with caste hierarchy than love for animals. This is how this bill is portraying vegetarians, right? In fact, if you see that slide below, there is a study from University of Washington that says that vegetarianism is associated with casteism, and only higher class people practice vegetarianism. And dominant caste Hindus are often vegetarian, right? In fact, there is in data taken right out of the SB403 website. Basically, it says one person says, "Hey, I am a lower caste person and I eat meat," and then this person just looked at me. It doesn't even say they looked at me with contempt. It says they gave me this look of tolerance, and that made me feel bad. So it is not, you don't even need very small, very major things to trigger people, right? So if you're vegetarian, that means they also want to associate vegetarianism with higher caste. There is also this word. There is a post in one of the Slack channels in a company. Somebody said namaste. And they said, "Oh, this person is using the word namaste, which is associated with thousands of years of caste discrimination by Brahmins. And so now you can't even say namaste, because if you say namaste, you are associated with a higher caste and you're oppressing others, right?" And there are kids who study well in math and science, and they're saying, "Oh, these people who do well in math and science, they're all belonging to the upper caste, because only those upper caste people teach their kids these high-flying things like math and science. We poor people don't know about this." So it is everything you do whether it's vegetarian, simple things you do, saying namaste, you practice yoga, suddenly you will be said, "Hey, you're promoting yoga, then you have to be upper caste." So understand how it is a threat to every simple thing that Hindus are practicing. So you don't even have to be explicitly Hindu. Even if you practice some level of Hinduism, they can brand you as being casteist. And so once this bill becomes law, any one of these actions can be shown to say, "Hey, he only eats vegetarian and he looked at me negatively when I ate non-vegetarian. That means he discriminated against me, or she discriminated against me." Today, in today's world, I want to say one thing. I want to invite actually Gauri Bharata here. How Swamiji treats everybody equal, right? He does not differentiate between people based on caste, creed, which religion you belong to, which gender you belong to. Everybody is given Gayatri Mantra initiation and given sacred thread. So if you are initiated by Swamiji and given sacred thread, suddenly somebody can come and say, hey, this person is higher caste, so they're discriminating against me, right? It is such a threat to everything that we stand for and how we practice. This is the challenge. If you are shocked by it, that is great, because you have to fight it. It's a challenge. And all Gauri Bharataya and Ma Muktika and Suhas, all three of them went to Sacramento, which is the capital of California, to protest, right? Problem is, we will soon tell you this is not going to stop here in the US and California. It started in Seattle, come to California. UC Davis passed a law saying, the university saying caste discrimination is not allowed. Columbia University made something like this. Very soon, every state will have something like this, right? So,
sorry, if I can.
One second, before Gauri Bharataya, I invite you, I want all of you to post how many of you have faced such discrimination against you because you are practicing these Hindu practices, right? Post on Facebook. Share with us. Gauri Bharataya, go ahead.
Sorry, what I was trying to add was why California 403 has to be taken seriously is, one, it is the tech hub of the world. Any major company in the world that deals in tech either is a vendor in California, has a branch in California, or has a main headquarters in California. Similarly, any large tech company that has headquarters in California has major centers all over the world. Now, these companies will be forced to comply with 403, which means they have to start educating their employees about what caste is. And who will educate them about what caste is? The people that are introducing 403 bill. And because these are global companies, immediately they'll start applying this to all their employees all over the world. So this will impact Hindus all over the world. Once these companies take it global, every country in the world will begin to implement it as part of their practice, because these companies will not stop there, right? Their vendors have to comply this law then. Their vendor, like all the way up to the entire chain of this employees ecosystem, companies ecosystem will have to comply this law. So it is not an isolated bill that is impacting only 3 million Hindus living in California. The reach is as far as 2 billion Hindus globally, not just 1 billion Hindus in India, but 2 billion Hindus globally.
Yeah, and I know many of you are from Canada, France, Malaysia, China, Sweden, Nepal, so many different countries. I would like each of you to post how many of you have seen something like this in your place, right? If you can share that, you can share the understanding of how global this is. Now, I want to invite Ma Muktika and Suhas. Gauri Bharataya also went to Sacramento to protest in person. This is our duty. As a disciple of Paramashiva and his lineage, it is our duty to protect this Varnashrama Dharma from misrepresentation. The Varnashrama Dharma that was given to us by Paramashiva. Ma Muktika, can you say a little bit about your protest in Sacramento and how you went, why you went there, what happened there?
Sure, Shri Mukta. Thank you. I think it was an eye-opener of sorts for us, and I'm actually very happy that when I invited Suhas to come along with us, as a youth, someone who is starting his life as post-education in the industry or at work, for him to have a first-hand experience of what it felt like to understand how the laws are passed or what is the issue that is happening. I think for us, it was really an awakening, and it made us understand that there is so much that is being said outside without a fundamental understanding of what is Varnashrama Dharma, what is the caste system, right? And because of that, there is this misrepresentation in the form of sharing that there is discrimination, there is pain and suffering that people are going through because of this, and how for decades and generations, in fact, the senator shared that for thousands of years, this discrimination has been going on. And we were really shocked because it was a senator who is, from Afghanistan, someone who is not from the Hindu background, and was talking a lot about the caste system without the fundamental understanding of Varnashrama Dharma. And we could see how it was impacting people, the emotions that were at play, and how people were so worried. There was one side that actually, when we went there, we were more than 450 to 500 people, several hundreds of us, who voted saying we wanted our voice registered as no, we do not support this bill. Please do not bring this division, because it will create racial profiling, it'll create division amongst the communities, it'll make people doubt each other. And it is such a deep, impactful bill. And there were only about 200 odd people who said yes, that we should have the bill. Yet the entire judiciary committee that was there, they voted 11-0 for the bill, to introduce the bill in the Senate, which was shocking for us, because without the right understanding, to have the leaders in the political system voting for something that can divide was quite an eye-opener, saying that we have a lot of work ahead of us. We have to go and share the right knowledge, and we have to make an impact as a united Hindu front. We have to share what a difference it makes, whether it is at the work level, whether it is at the educational institution level, or even at home. When you're interacting people, that's how deep the impact is.
Yeah, I wanted to say that, I want to add to what you said. It is not just in person. Online also, people called. When we call the senators' offices, of course, we talk to the officers, the clerks and others. They told us that overwhelmingly the number of calls coming in and saying no is favoring no. But yet, when the vote happened, all of them voted for, right? So clearly there is an agenda behind this. This is not something simple. In fact, Ma Paramashiva Priya posted on FB, how is it possible to pass in the areas where so many Hindus live and work? Yes, because it is not a pro-Hindu bill. It is an anti-Hindu bill. It does not consider take Hinduism into consideration. It doesn't take Hindus into consideration. It is only taking... I want to say later we will come to something more dangerous. There is a bigger conspiracy afoot. Gauri Bharataya will talk about it. We will come to it. Okay, Mamuktika, go ahead.
Yes. In fact, I wanted to share, Gauri Bharataya and myself and Suhas had finished voicing, that we were against the bill, and we stepped out of the judiciary room. There was somebody, one of the lobbyists or someone there from the offices, who actually walked up to us and said, there is this big confusion out there that why is this whole community so divided? So the perception is that the entire Hindu community or the Indian community is divided. So he's saying, why is it that on one side there are people wanting this bill? Why is it on the other side people are saying no? Why would you say no to end discrimination? So the whole context that if you said no, it meant that you are against, you're saying no, about discrimination. So it's actually a very big perception out there that we have to educate people about, because it is putting us in this position of being felt, how can you tolerate discrimination, right? That is the way it is being looked at. And in fact, Gauri Bharata can also add to this, because that's when we are getting to understand how people are thinking, what are the perceptions that are being played, out there, and what we should do to create a difference or educate people, including Hindus.
Yeah, thank you, Mamuktika. Can I invite Suhas to share his experience in Sacramento from a youth perspective, right? And what does SB403 means for you, Suhas, as a youth?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. So I've lived here my entire life, right, in the US. I'm 22 years old right now, and I've never faced caste discrimination like with me or my parents. It's just never been a thing. And that's why it's very confusing for me why they want to bring up this bill. But I realize they just want to guilt Hindus into hating themselves, right? That's the easiest way to make anyone give up, right? Guilt is the most corrosive emotion. And they want to make, and if they're targeting youth, it's probably the worst thing they can do, because the youth are trying to build their identities, right? They don't know who they are. And when they see someone saying like, oh, we're stopping discrimination, they're like, oh, that must be the right thing. But there's a level of critical thinking that needs to happen, right? They don't understand the implications and things that this can cause. And I think ultimately what they're trying to do is label Hindus as supremacists, when that is completely the opposite thing that Hinduism wants to spread, right? Everyone is equal and everyone is divine, whether it be everyone is Paramashiva or Parandama, right? Everyone is that. And
yeah, thanks. Thank you, Suhas, for giving the youth perspective. That is very important. And I wanted to read a comment by Bhana Hastananda on Facebook. SB403, I work in executive search. There have been many attempts to import identity politics from the US to UK. SB403 sounds like an extension of that. I can see how it will spread quickly via international technology companies. I recruit mainly in technology and financial services. Thank you for sharing that. And then Nitya Paramashiva Priya says SB403 is an opening for Hindus to speak up and have a discussion on the global stage of Hinduism. Absolutely. So we're going to talk more about it. So at this point, I want to say there is a bigger story which Suhas spoke a little bit about. There is a bigger conspiracy afoot. It's not SB403 is a symptom of a bigger problem. And what is that bigger problem? That I would invite Gauri Bharataya to talk about that particular problem. Can you introduce what that problem is, what people are trying to do?
If you look at just the bill, right, it looks very benign bill. It is preventing discrimination of against caste, right? So what could go wrong? That's the most misleading tactic that is being pulled on Hindus. Fundamentally, this bill is designed to disconnect children from their parents. At the core of it, that is what it is. They know moment you disconnect children from the parents, there is no future in Hinduism. If you ask me to summarize in two lines what this bill does, that is what it does. It makes children enemies of their parents, or it makes parents the enemies of their children.
And disconnect from traditional Hindu tradition.
Correct. So yeah. The way that see, basically, children not listening is one aspect of life, but in this case, probably people in their late teens, early 20s, they would be groomed to hate all Hindu parents. All Hindu parents are bigoted. That is what they claim. And the way these guys have are training the kids, right? This is happening in front of our eyes in universities. You go to any university, this is what happens, at least in US and all. Even in India, this has caught up now. They teach kids how to have confrontational discussion with quote unquote bigoted parents at home on a dinner table. And this is not me saying, I'm saying what the authors behind the bill have been talking about publicly and openly.
That's a great point. See, one of the things that you said is that they are using neuro-linguistic techniques to know exactly which word teach the kids to use the right words that will trigger their anger from their parents, right? So that even when they know that when the children start this conversation, they go tell them, children, go sit with your parents on a dinner table and start engaging. If your parents use these words, they know what words will trigger, right? And second is, if your parents deny that this caste is ever happening, that means they are caste dominated. They are for caste, they are oppressing. So they want to divide all Hindus into caste dominated and caste oppressed. Gauri Bharataya, can you say more about that? Because this is a very important topic on how they want to divide Hindus into two groups.
Basically, it's not just dividing Hindus into two groups of caste oppressed and caste divide. They want to divide individual family into caste oppressed and caste, dominated.
Great point.
So, and these groups have openly been saying they know exactly what triggers the Hindus. They are very clear, very open about it. They know exactly what their pain points are. They know exactly how to trigger them. They know how to exactly gaslight them. And now what are they doing? They're taking the parents of these, children of these kids and using them as, foot soldiers to destroy Hindu families, to destroy Hinduism.
Yeah, thank you. This is such an important point. What they are doing is there is a larger movement, which is essentially to make anybody who is slightly in the majority or have been in the majority in the past, to make them feel as they are the oppressors, right? So it's all about division, duality, which is the right opposite of Hinduism. Hinduism is all about oneness. This is all about duality. So it's a great point. And I want to invite Suhas back in. Suhas, as a youth, tell me a little bit about your college experience and what is, being the so-called liberal outlook, which is not really liberal, but it's a different way of outlook. And what does it teach you, and how do you engage with your parents?
I'd say the best way to describe the people that I met at college is they're very, well, a lot of them, like a lot of my friends who were maybe white or something, because we were in such a diverse school, they would constantly say things to put themselves down, right? They would be like, we're the white people that we need to back, like very self-hating things. And it was very unnecessary because no one was particularly asking them for that. And I think there's a lot of things that, I don't know, like Hinduism also wasn't a big part of university unless it was like a holy festival or something, right? And people weren't exactly into the Hinduism aspect of it. It was more just like socializing, right? So
yeah, one thing I heard, Suhas, is that the one conversation that happens in some circles is that if you don't agree with me, then you're a bigot.
Oh yeah.
Right? This is something that, both of us have experienced in our conversations with people, that nobody is allowed to have a different point of view. If you disagree with me, you're a bigot, and which is what Gauri Bharataya was saying. They teach children to think that way. And so if they go to their parents and say one thing, if their parents say anything different, oh, you're a bigot, right? And this is targeted towards Hinduism in such a strong way. As a parent, Ma Muktika, can you say more about how much it churns my stomach to think that there is someone turning my children and my family members against me? Like, it's not just children. Anybody who is young in your family, you can't have a relationship with them anymore if they come with this idea. Can you say a little bit more about what does that make you feel?
I think it's a big pain point that most parents would go through. And one is the way the narrative has been shared over several decades, for a very long time. Even when you have the conversation about caste, I've seen how people and parents, when they are explaining it to their children, they experience guilt. They shirk from talking about it in the first place. They try to avoid it because they feel bad about something that they have been told that their caste or their family or the group has been in general part of, which is not true. It is again a perception. It is something somebody else has narrated to them, which they have internalized as their truth, which makes them squirm when they talk to their kids. And it is such a sad state. Then the kids say, why would I want to pray to your gods? Why would I want to follow the same thing as you? Why are you asking me to do something where you have supported discrimination, which in fact is not true? But because in the bigger picture, the parents think they belong to this, community that has been accused of it. So they feel bad about it. And that guilt, that doubt, the self-doubt that comes really makes them cringe. And it's a very very uncomfortable situation that parents find that they have with their kids. And
It's guilt by
knowing that,
association.
sorry?
Guilt by association.
Absolutely. And that is exactly what is being, portrayed, which is being used as a weapon, which is being triggered in people so that it breaks the system down, it breaks families, it breaks the Hindu structure.
Yeah.
That's what has been one of the most revealing, eye-opening things. And this has come so furiously in the last several years. And it is shocking to see how many people are impacted by this,
Yeah.
by the wrong narrative that they have been, part of.
Yeah, great point. I want to read another comment. Reno San Edmund from Toronto saying, once in university, I had a professor who spoke about Hinduism. He was very happy about it, but he said he did not accept or tolerate it solely because of caste system. Great point. It's like rejecting the whole religion because of some wrong understanding of what it does, right? Second, continuing what he said, it is a narrative that has been pushed so aggressively that now it is simply accepted as an introduction to Hinduism. Even recently, specifically, caste discrimination is being pushed to be part of elementary school's curriculum in Toronto District School Board. Yeah, it's a great point. I want to say one thing. There are religions, Christianity is actually has been in India for 2,000 years. Hinduism has been there for many, many thousands of years. Islam has been there in India for like about 1,500 years now, right? All these religions have some, in India, there is some level of caste hierarchy that is practiced in different ways. To associate it only with Hinduism is to actually misrepresent those social constructs, right? And to associate it with Varnashrama Dharma, it's actually even worse. Now, we want to go to the next stage, which is a higher level question. Why? Why is this happening in the US, right? There is a very important point I'm going to invite Gauri Bharata to say more, but Hindus are the most prosperous ethnic group in the US. They have the highest income per capita, highest graduation rate, number of people in high positions, the largest percentage. In fact, if you look at it, there are over 100,000 doctors of Indian origin. Sorry, close to 1 million doctors of Indian origin in the US, even though it's only a small number of percentage of population, 1 or 2% of the population, right? So number of people who are CEOs. So it's a very affluent community, and it's all about control over the community, the wealth, the thinking, and the future generations of it, right?
So if I might,
yeah, go ahead, Ma.
Yeah, if I can add to what you're asking, and I think this is something that we've been talking a lot, as we've experienced in Sacramento, is when there is already the Constitution or the law is protecting everybody against any form of discrimination, when there is no discrimination tolerated, whether it's with race or creed or color or anything, what is the point of bringing a law such as, which will come from SB403? What is that going to do when there is already something that's protecting everybody?
Yeah.
Why bring in the element of caste in a misunderstood way when people here do not have anything to do with the Varnashrama Dharma?
Understand, great point. And I want to invite Gauri Bharata to talk about the Cisco case that started this and why it is not meaningful or relevant anymore. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity of listening to the author herself, the main person who paired up with the senator here in California, and we also got to know from other people. The person who instigated the case to be filed against Cisco on for not handling caste discrimination knew very well that the case will not stick. It took a large company, a multi-billion-dollar company with all the resources at its disposals, with the lawyers, with everything, right? They're not some small mom and pop shop. It took them 2 years to get it thrown out. And in the meantime, whatever was needed to pass the SB403 in the first stage was already done. The things were set in motion. Now imagine a company like Cisco took 2 years to resolve the issue. Finally, the case was dismissed that there is no merit in the case. Now, Indian community is predominantly an entrepreneurial community. Like, 16% of the startups in Silicon Valley are founded by Hindus. The doctors with their practices, Hindus are essentially an entrepreneurial community. But they are not billion-dollar conglomerates yet, even though they're rich. The burden on them to run their business will be significant. All it takes is one case, and that's it. How many years, he's going to waste they're going to waste the resources. So this is what we call it as mafia tactics, right? I create the problem, you pay me money in order to, make sure the problem doesn't happen to you. That is what this bill does to an average Hindu entrepreneur in US. And anyone who is associated with this ecosystem, right? Small entrepreneurs might be serving big companies, so they have to comply with the law. There might be a company let's say in Trinidad, or there might be a company in Africa, which is working for these companies or doing some vendorship. They're part of the supply chain. Everybody will have to comply. Everybody is going to get impacted. And this is to put it in one line, this is a pure, it's a control tactic, right? It's mafioso control tactics.
Yeah, great point. Yeah. Another thing that Suhas brought up is that one of the biggest challenges for us Hindus is what we talk about, we are not able to relate to children or youth, whereas what the anti-Hindu side is saying is said in a very relatable way to children, right? Suhas touched upon it. Suhas, can you say a little bit more about it? And I also want to invite Gauri Bharata to speak more about this topic.
Yeah, so it's really just people, because now activism is a very big thing. People are trying to, be on the right side of things, right? And in a lot of these colleges, people are, of course, trying to be very respectful and stuff. But there's a point where the line kind of gets blurred, right? That you don't know when you're pushing someone's agenda versus actually defending someone who is actually being persecuted, right?
Great point.
And so if you tell young people who are trying to do the right thing that this group is being discriminated, right? They are going to take that in a black and white. They're going to have a black and white outlook on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and great point. You're making a great point. Also, it is pushing intolerance in the form of tolerance, under the guise of tolerance, right? And so as you yourself have experienced this, that if you express anything different from what somebody else feels, you are portrayed as somebody who is bigoted or, perverse or in some way, right? How do you handle that in a university environment, or typically do people just shy away and don't get involved? What do you see is happening?
You have to be very careful because, right? Because some people are very good at really getting the ball rolling on like making things a big situation, right? And I think people tend to try to forget context to try to prove their point, or try to make themselves feel like a victim sometimes, right? And that's a very big thing, and you have to be very careful. But at the same time, you can't just shy away from defending yourself and what you stand for.
Yeah, great point. Gauri Bharataya, do you want to add some of that? Why are the anti-Hindus be able to speak into our youths listening, whereas the Hindus have not been able to, and how can we change that conversation?
Actually, if you follow Swamiji's teaching, right, so we very clearly understand why there is a disconnect between children and the parents. Now, unfortunately, because of persecution of Hindus for the last 5,000 years, that science has been diluted to a great extent to an average Hindu. So now when the kid enters their teens, right, the relatability with the parents is down, especially in in Western world like US or Canada or any of these non-Indian places. At this point of time, the kid enters the university, and the folks, right, or the experts who are training new generation of activists, they have mastered this for the last 1,000 years. Like you said, they're using neuro-linguistic techniques. They understand precisely what word affects what person, which nervous system, which physical system. That's the level of mapping they have done. Once they enter in, they know exactly how to handle the kids. And kids don't stand a chance. They cannot escape this. There is they don't have a choice here. And parents are clueless until it is too late. That is what we're seeing in Greater LA area, or whether it is in California. There is a breakdown of Hindu families. See, non-Hindu families are protected to a large extent. Hindu families are facing this brunt in a very unique way.
Or anybody who associates themselves with Hinduism will face this.
Or anyone who looks like a Hindu.
Yeah. So I think this is a challenge. Now, what is it? What is the solution, right? I hope everybody understood the challenge. Can you raise your hand if you understand what challenge we're facing right now? Right. And if you
have someone.
One second. If you understand the challenge, please post on Facebook, right? Please post on what is it that you understood the challenges, and voice your opinion on what is happening in a very respectful way, of course, and be ferocious about being a Hindu and wanting to protect Hinduism. Mamaktika, you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up a point here in this conversation. What about so many people who are not born Hindus, meaning they're not born to the traditional Hindu families, from India, but have adopted and have chosen Sanatana Hindu Dharma and the lifestyle as their life, right? So many people have been, initiated by Swamiji, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, into the Gayatri Mantra. So they are actually chanting, they follow the Hindu lifestyle. Is everybody going to be discriminated against? Is everybody going to see that this is a problem for them? There are so many, it's a global thing where people marry. Somebody can be a South Indian, will marry a North Indian, or will marry somebody who is, a Hindu from outside India. So then how does this work? Where is the end to this form of discrimination or this problem? Because it is going to impact everybody. Then how will you say, oh, you are supposedly from a higher caste or a lower caste? Where does the understanding that Varnashrama Dharma actually, in fact, allows you to understand it is delegation of responsibilities. It is how the ecosystem is meant to function in the most efficient manner, where you are choosing what what you're allowing yourself to follow, right? How does that? This is going to be a huge impact, not just for the born Hindus, but it is also for everybody globally who has adopted Hinduism as their lifestyle, that Sanatana Dharma is what they will follow.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's important for us to go on to the solution, right? The only solution for this is the truth is there is no place in the world where Hindus are safe except in Kailasa. We need a place like Kailasa, which is a nation for Hindus where Hinduism can be practiced. Can we go to the slides, please? I'm going to go through some of the slides about why Kailasa. And this is being, Manita is asking, why is this attack on Hinduism? Break the family, break the Hindu society so they can take over. Yeah, we clearly said Hindus are among the most successful communities around the world. They control a lot of wealth. They control a lot of power. And if we divide, it's a very simple colonial technique, right? You can look at colonial occupation all over the world. You just divide people and then conquer. You divide people, and once they start fighting amongst themselves, it's much easier to control them, right? It's all about, in the end, everything is about control. So let me go to what is the only lasting solution. All of us have to be united. Wake up. First of all, wake up and understand that there is a threat. it's a threat that is coming to every Hindu lifestyle everywhere. The only solution is we need to have a nation that's where Hinduism is protected and Hindu living lifestyle is protected and all Hindus can be safe. And that is what the United States of Kailasa stands for. It is a revival of the ancient enlightened civilizational nation based on Hinduism. But Kailasa has its own sovereign territory where Hinduism can be safely practiced. The goal of Kailasa is to preserve the science of enlightenment, which says all human beings are equal and divine, and they can reach their highest potential. So you don't need laws like this to go tell people you're equal. The core principle of the country itself says you're equal, right? And understand why it is under threat. This science existed in 56 nations. It used to be the operating principle of 56 nations. Today, how many nations practice this? Can anybody guess? How many nations? Post the number and tell me how many people, how many, maybe raise your fingers. How many countries as far Hinduism practiced? It's 0, right? So centuries of persecution, destroying the institutions of Hinduism. Gurukul. Gurukul is the unique schooling system which used to build enlightened people. I see some of you have raised your hand and said, no, yeah, you're all right. So it's essentially destroying the principles of Hinduism, the institutions of Hinduism over a long period of time. And now the very fabric of Hinduism and the family of Hinduism is being destroyed, right? And Kailasa's vision is living enlightenment for all, based on the principle of oneness. Next slide, please. So if you think about it, Kailasa is actually already a nation. It's as per Montevideo Convention, it's a nation. It has sovereign territory. It has home country agreements with multiple places. There is the Supreme Court, economics, everything is established in Kailasa based on the principles of Hinduism, that is oneness. And here, for the very first time, you see a picture, ambassador from Kailasa went to UN and presented about the persecution of Hindus. Never has happened before. Why? Nobody is bothered. Thousands of years of persecution of Hindus. Why nobody has bothered to talk about persecution of Hindus in the United Nations? Kailasa was the very first country to talk about it. Okay, so, and that is why you can see, next slide, you will see so many places all over the world understand that this science is needed for them, where we are providing service. And though so many countries, so many places, so many states, so many cities have diplomatic relationship with Kailasa because they understand we stand for equality. And they understand we serve all of humanity, not just one small part. They understand that, right? So you can close the slides, Ma. So the important part we're trying to say is Kailasa is the only place where Hindus are safe, and supporting Kailasa, first of all, coming together, start today, educate yourself, and that's what this session was all about. Post on Facebook and share your activism on why you're concerned that there is this movement, anti-Hindu movement that is happening. Why, as a Hindu, practicing Hindu, you are threatened by SB403 and how it can spread everywhere else. And support Kailasa, because that is the only way in which we are going to be able to preserve Hinduism and preserve Hindus, keep Hindus safe everywhere else. I would like to invite Ma Muktika for any closing thoughts.
I would like each and every person who is watching this session, who is, listening to us, this is an earnest request that it is critical that we take action now. It is important that we stand up for Sanatana Hindu Dharma. We understand the importance of Kailasa and what the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism is doing for all of humanity. When we talk about ahimsa, when we talk about Advaita or oneness, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, it is really what we believe and what we stand for. This is the message that we need to share with the world, whether it is your political leaders, your community leaders, from your temple, from your home, from your groups. It is important to share the right message. It is important to act and take responsibility for ensuring that dharma is restored and followed the way it is meant to. It is an urgent request to take action, to act now.
Great. Thank you.
Yes.
Us, anything to add?
Just be proud of being a Hindu and let others know as well.
Awesome. Gauri Bharataya?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind the parents that you have no chance. What you have seen until now is just the trailer. The new generation of the training that the kids are being put through, no government is going to support you. The only way you can invest in the future of your kids is through a Hindu nation.
Yeah. Forum Sharma is saying, my child being born in the US, Hindu, was denied her fundamental birthright of religion and worship in California in a battle of custody. She was prohibited from worshipping her guru, Swamiji, and temple. She was tortured in psychotherapy sessions with the hands, in psychotherapy sessions, who cornered her for their spiritual lifestyle and blamed that this is the reason for the family split. So it is only Swamiji's blessings that served us from all the vicious attacks. So that's clear, right? So there are so many ways in which Hinduism can be used as a weapon, and this is one more way, right? How many of you feel lucky that you are being initiated into a Hindu lifestyle? Raise your hands. How many of you feel lucky today? Now, how many of you feel that this lifestyle should be protected? All of you post on Facebook and say why it should be protected, right? So post, take action now. That is the only way in which you will be able to save your, not just you, it's saving the future. If the science of enlightenment is lost, then imagine the benefits that you receive. People in the future are not going to receive it, right? Saroj Oplish from UK is saying, young people in UK also favor BBC and other media's version of Hindus being right-wing and are oppressing minorities in India. This is the opposite of reality. Yes, thank you for sharing. So please support Kailasa, join hands with Kailasa, become a Kailasian, become e-Kailasa passport holder, and support Hinduism wherever you are and act proactively. Don't wait for this to come to your neighborhood before you start acting. You need to stop it before it starts. With that, let us end this session with a Purna mantra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Bhagavat Shri Nityananda Paramashiva Paduka Arpanamastu. Om Nityanandam. Thank you all.